So, do people not understand what composting is? Because I don't think they do.
They definitely don't. Thank you, kind neighbor, for the sweet lull of your chainsaw.
Oh, I have neighbors like that as well. You know what I miss, Heather? I miss sidewalks.
Oh, yes, those wonderful sidewalks. My other neighbor keeps pushing his frozen pork chops on me. No for me, dog.
Have such a good day. Hello, world. Welcome to Have Such a Good Day, the show that tries its damnedest to make you do just that.
And while we're at it, we like to unpack this absurdity of everyday life for your entertainment.
Yeah, we do. That's exactly what Heather and I do. And I'm Sarah, by the way. And we love doing the show. We love having you here. So thank y'all for coming. We hope you're having a great week. But listen, if you're not, you're among friends as well. Because oftentimes we limp to this recording every week, and we're just like, Heather and I kind of have our little pre-show meeting, and we talk about the show, but obviously other things. And, you know, sometimes weeks are better than others. I'm actually having a kind of okay week, believe
Wow,
it or
that's
not.
incredible.
I know.
Congratulations.
I know. Thank you. I know. Well, I think a couple episodes ago, I was like, I'm doing pretty good. And then last week, I was like, life is pain. And now I'm like, I'm okay again.
The roller coaster of life, Sarah. But I always feel like that. Like last week I had a bad week and I'm like, I think I'm having a bad week because next week's supposed to be really good. And
There you
that's
go.
kind of it's a good attitude, I guess.
So the whole point of the show is us trying to make you smile a little bit. As Heather said, unpacking absurdities, because boy, there are many. And maybe we all learn a little something in the process.
Exactly.
Which is
And
very
maybe
nice.
maybe we give you a little spring in your step, which is,
Exactly.
I think a spring in your little step is an important thing these days, especially.
So this week, Heather, was interesting for me. It was my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thanks so much. And I'm not a big birthday person. Never have been. And the older I get, the more I am not one. Because I'm just like, oh my God, we have to do this every single year. But I turned 44, which is to me, because this is something I was talking about with a friend the other day. I like symmetry a lot. There are many things in my life that are not symmetrical, and that's okay. But the things that are symmetrical bring me great joy.
I hear you.
Palindromes are one of those things.
I love palindromes.
And 44 is a palindrome. Means, same forward as it is back, right? I mean, it's the number 4, so that's easy. But there are word palindromes. The way that eggs are arranged in a carton, well, I have to make sure that they're as symmetrical as they can be, and sometimes I eat like an extra egg because I'm like, I don't want it to be weird in the fridge. So that's just like a weird quirk of mine, always has been. So palindrome birthdays are a thing that nobody celebrates that I know of, but I do. And the last time I had a birthday was 11 years ago when I was 33. So I was like kind of excited for the birthday, just in my own mind. It just
Sure.
brought me some sort of I just felt good about it. And a friend of mine, I had mentioned like palindrome birthday, woo, thinking like, because everyone's always like, yeah, that's your weird thing, Sarah, that no one else cares about. But he was like, several hours later, he was like, I have been crunching some serious numbers, like 10, 12, because my birthday is October 12th, 10, 12, 20, 20, 10 to 12, 20. Where's the palindrome? And I was like, yeah, I'm 44. And he was like, oh my God. Like, I can't believe that was so obvious. It was so right in front of my face the whole time. So we had a laugh about it. It was good times. But
You have to give him an A for effort. My gosh.
I was like so overthinking it, but also like, do you know what a palindrome is? Anyway, he might have just not known my age offhand or something like that. But I had a very nice, socially distanced dinner with a couple of my friends who live in the area. And it was a real nice place that I'd never been to before. And it was, you wear kind of a mask until you get seated. Then you can take it off. And the other diners are pretty far away from, you feel pretty good about it. All the staff is wearing masks. And that's been the case at a lot of restaurants. Well, a lot of restaurants. I've been to 3 restaurants in the entire year. But that's been the case in the past. But they handled it really well. They've kind of got it dialed in, and it was kind of I wouldn't call it a fancy restaurant, but a nice restaurant.
Like upscale.
Yeah, just good food, good wine,
Yeah.
the kind of thing. And we had so much fun. And I looked around at one point, I just was sort of like, hey, can you pass me the water? And I'm kind of like, wow, life feels so normal right now. And I know it isn't, and it's not going to be, and it just can't be. But for this one little moment, it feels really normal.
That's great.
And it was that was honestly the best birthday present I could have ever had.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think that same night or weekend, last weekend, we dined out. This place just opened up their dining room, and it was a similar experience. It's kind of upscale. You were far enough away from people. And yeah, there's like a split moment there where you're like, this is kind of lovely. You have like a really cool, like, light fixture above you. It's like a different space. I'm so used to being home or in my office, and I love different atmosphere and like, going to different places and experiencing something new. And it was very refreshing. But I'm so glad you had a great birthday dinner. And I love this palindrome birthday thing. I think other people should, you shouldn't deny your palindrome
I
birthdays.
realize it's weird, but it's just something that it brings me deep joy.
I get what you're saying when you the egg thing, it's like, I think I have a tinge of that because I'm trying to think of a good example, but yeah, like there's certain things like maybe on my desk or, where it's like, it feels so much better when I move that thing just so, lined up with something or.
Yeah. And there's the little tiny apartment that I live in is this sort of dramatic A-frame. So it's tiny, but it's, it's got this kind of high ceiling A-frame that comes up, to a point in the middle. And that's centered around the fireplace. And my TV is directly above the fireplace, symmetrically put on the wall. And when I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I had this HVAC thing and that people are going to need to put like a unit in my apartment, that was my number one thing. It wasn't so much that I'm like, oh, having a unit in my apartment is the worst thing in the world. I was just like,
Sure.
No, you can't put it on that wall. I literally sit on my couch and I look at how beautifully symmetrical the wall is a lot of my life, and we're not ruining it today. We're not going to do it. You're going to put it somewhere where I can't see it, and it's going to like always be an eyesore for me, and it's going to make me feel unbalanced.
The
entire time I live here.
Like, is that like, I really want to know a little bit more about that psychologically. Is that considered OCD? Because I have a tinge of that too, where, like, for example, I have an office that has a door that's like basically covered and like painted over. And it's just like, there's just something about that structural, like, it just
gnaws at you a little bit.
It does gnaw at me. And I have like those little things at home too. Like this is I just like little things where, we have really cheap doorknobs like on our doors. They're like, just like the standard kind of like hardware store, and I'm like, I just want a better tactile experience, and I'm like, dude, am I being crazy or what? But like, I want like a nice doorknob. I mean, it's a weird thing that your mind does.
I think there are certain things because the symmetry thing has always been a thing with me. And when you say OCD, it's like, and I know that there's like severe OCD and, it's nothing to joke about, of course, but I don't think that I'm compulsive really.
No.
But I would say that I am obsessive about certain things. I would like to think that they're not running my life. I mean, symmetry is like, you get it where you can. But if I can,
it's like a good motto or something.
I'm happy. I'm happy about it. But I'm not, touching a doorknob,
You're not losing
17
sleep
times before I'm going to
sleep.
No.
No, it is a serious issue.
But I hear you. Like the doorknob thing. It's like I have lived in apartments in the past, just using the, apartment as the model, where I'm like, ooh, I don't like this. Like a bad medicine cabinet, or
totally.
The floors are weird, or something's wrong. And sometimes I never get over it, and I'm like, when I move out, I'm like, I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that again. And sometimes I just stop caring.
Well, it's funny that you bring San Francisco apartments because the one thing that sticks out in my mind is that one apartment we lived on Central and Haight. And it was, we had the coolest bedrooms you've ever seen. They were like huge. We each had our own bedrooms, obviously. But they were very different, but very cool, like amazing, like light chandeliers and just cool, like
just
wood
large.
paneling. But like you could tell that the apartment was like cobbled together. Like, so you've got these beautiful bedrooms, but then like the rest of it, like there was that weird tiny living room that was just like, the structure, like you could tell that he basically like mishmashed like a bunch of like weird spaces together, and that did bug me a little bit.
For anybody who's not familiar with San Francisco, and this applies to a lot of cities with really dense housing, that have multiple layers. The house was obviously once, well, it might not have been a single family home. It might have been a couple of apartments at one point, but it became like 4 apartments.
Yeah.
And so, our apartment that Heather and I lived in together, there were original things about it, which were our bedrooms. But yeah, that sort of middle common space was small, and there were a lot of corners. And, it it was definitely something where I don't think back all that often and miss it.
I love this topic. Actually, I'm going to go a little further with it now.
Okay.
It's funny. I think with this symmetry thing, I always think about like, I always want to like power wash stuff because I think it's part of the same psychological, like obsessive thing where it's like, I just want, and it's the doorknob thing. Like I want everything to feel like it should feel. I want things to feel clean and orderly and like in line. And I'm definitely not OCD when it comes to that. Like I always have a pile of clothes like on the chair. Like I'm not like, I'm tidy, but I'm not obsessive about that stuff. But I do want to perfect everything. I'm just like, oh God, that paint is not quite right there. Like when I'm like laying in bed, like I'll see that they didn't use tape like on the ceiling part, and like they have kind of like a squiggly line with the paint, and I'm like, I should probably just like fix that. And like, it's like, oh, it's just endless. And I think I've gotten more like that as I've gotten older. I could care less, when I was younger. I don't think that it bothered me as much.
It's funny the things that we connect to, and for good and bad reasons. I mean, symmetry. I'm not like, oh, I'm so cool. I want like to have palindromes all over my life, but I'm like, that's just like a thing that I like. I have friends who will talk about, they get stressed out about something and they would, go crazy cleaning, for example.
Totally.
And
That's
I'm
a
like,
good example.
Yeah, where I'm like, I'm cleaning on a Saturday if I got time. I try to do it once a week, but I'm just one person here.
Yeah.
There are things that people, I think, go overboard. Well, overboard maybe isn't a kind way to say it, but they care about it more than I do.
Sure, of course.
And then vice versa, where people like, you just care about really weird things. Eggs in a carton are like pretty important to me. Like it really bothers me if they're not symmetrical in the carton.
Basically, if you have one on the far left and then there's another one and they're just like in weird spots, they're not all lined up.
I just wouldn't let that happen. I'd always eat 2 at a time, and I move them together, so that at least it's like it's balanced.
I hear you. Yeah, no, I mean, you get a couple eggs at one end and it just topples over. I mean, it's a huge mess.
Can't even think about it. It gives me the willies.
God, we could go on and on about this stuff. I actually find this stuff pretty fascinating because it's all very subjective and it's comfort level. And I really respect people who don't give a shit about stuff. But then sometimes I'm like, I wish you cared more, like about aesthetics or atmosphere or doorknobs or whatever.
Yeah, I know. There's, yin and yang, right?
Totally.
To round out my super fun week, there was a high-speed chase on my street the other day. And normally I'd just be like, whatever, who cares? But I just so happened to be taking my dog in my car out. And this street is like, you'd call it probably about 3 to 4 city blocks from kind of the main road. And it's super residential. It's, I never go above like 20 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And, people are out and about and you're waving at your neighbors and stuff. It's like Forest Hills, it's Keith Street. And I'm coming out of my gate And this guy comes like down the street so fast where it's that out of body experience where you're like, what is happening right now? And then all of a sudden it was like cops, rear, 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 like 7 of them.
Whoa.
And what's weird about it is where I live, the way that they went, or the way that the driver, it was a guy, the guy went, it's a no outlet street. Like
What a sucker.
you can't get out, you know? So I was
Yeah.
like, and I sort of like, because he had gone so fast by me and it was so jarring, I kind of just sat there for a second. And one of my neighbors came out because she was, I don't know, also around and was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, he didn't hit me or anything. But like, what the fuck was that?"
God, it's like you're back in LA or something.
Well, but just, I mean, it was dramatic.
Wow.
I don't know how fast he was going, but I even kind of like went back to my house and was like, did he like hit our fence or anything? He didn't, not that I can see. Anyway, so, and we all kind of gathered around for a minute and we were like, are you okay? Yeah, are you okay? Yeah. I mean, we're literally not affected by this at all, but it was like just something that you don't see very often.
Yeah. Especially in your area.
Well, and I'm like, I got my dog in the back of the car. We were going to the park. He's like pretty pumped about that. So I'm just going to go.
Yeah.
Call me if you need me. And that was the end of it.
So you didn't see what happened?
I didn't see what happened. And yeah, I didn't want to be involved. It was, it looked like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to help the situation at all.
Do you not do this? Because this is maybe another obsessive thing that people do is they get on those radar, like the cop radar apps. And if something's happening in their neighborhood, you can kind of hear them
the
talking
police
about it. Yeah, the
scanners?
police scanners, yeah.
I don't do this, no. But I do follow a few people. And curiously enough, they're all in LA for some reason because, I don't know, LA's big. There's
Yeah.
a lot of police action. You got the high-speed chases. I mean, that's so LA, right? So I still follow a few of the accounts and I'm like mildly curious, like, I wonder what happened over on Main Street today.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun little
even though I'm nowhere near there right now and
Yeah.
it wouldn't matter and I can't help in any way. But all right, so high speed chase, everyone's fine. But it was it was a lot of excitement on my birthday week. So how was your week, Heather?
Cool, Lanes. Well, I'm really glad you had a great birthday week. That's very important.
Yeah.
My week was it's been pretty good. A lot of kind of health stuff. I learned a few lessons that I'd like to share with you and
Okay.
all of you, all y'all. One of them is, and this is all related to things that happened this week. So when you get a fancy ass house call pedicure outside in the garden, which is what I got on Tuesday, thanks to my awesome father, he knows a woman who makes house calls. And so we all had appointments out in the yard and it was really nice. But don't assume she'll paint your nails. Call me crazy, but I've never gotten a pedicure where I don't get my nails painted. It's just, I guess, maybe living in the city, but in the country, it's different. It's more about self-care and health and loving your toenails as they are.
No, yeah, I mean, listen, I know this exists, but I'm with you. I've never once been like, I'm going to go through all that trouble just to get a buff.
I mean, it's totally fine. My toes look amazing, but I'm going to have to paint them at some point.
So like more of like a massage kind of type, like.
Actually, not really, which I was surprised by too. But here's the thing. She was like a podiatrist. And so she kind of takes this angle of like talking to you about your feet and how to keep your feet healthy. And she does a lot of trimming and a lot of buffing. A very extensive callus buffing with like
Sure.
literally like electric like machines, and very thorough job in terms of that. So I was grateful because it's been like 8 months or something since I've gotten one. So it was awesome.
Well, and I know a lot of, I mean, not only men, but a lot of men who enjoy pedicures often
yeah.
don't get their nails painted, but they like all the other stuff. So it sounds
yeah.
a lot like something that people already enjoy.
Totally. And it's an experience. And then my another lesson is when you have a health appointment over Zoom where you have to get really TMI with total strangers, be sure to drink enough coffee first, brush your hair, and set up good lighting. I had to get pretty detailed about my health. I had to like talk about my digestion, my period, my all these things. And I've never experienced that before. It was a weird feeling, like not being in the room with someone and being so personal.
Yeah.
And I felt self-conscious. I mean, obviously there's times when you feel self-conscious at the doctor's office, but like this was like really different. I don't know of another time I would ever feel like this on Zoom, you know? So that was interesting. So really
I
just
mean,
be
did you
prepared.
feel, was it self-conscious because you wanted to have more like real face-to-face, like eye contact, or that there were a couple people involved,
Maybe it was the
or
fact that there were three people like
yeah.
on, you know, it was like three people video like chat. And then I hadn't met the two guys, and the fact that they were guys. Honestly, they couldn't have been cooler dudes, and they were just so kind. But I was like a little embarrassed. I'm like just talking about this stuff. Anyway, it's all good. It's just like the way of the new world. And I also learned that never look up. I feel like Googling people to look at their picture before you meet them, whoever it might be. I don't know if I'm sure people do that. You Google people when you're going to go on a date or whatever. But I Googled a doctor. I was trying to establish a new doctor up here, and I Googled him. And I shouldn't have, because there was a sort of a creep factor with his photograph. I think it was just a bad photograph, and he just seemed like a little bit of a creepy old man. But honestly, I met him the other day, and he couldn't have been more wonderful. So never judge a book by its cover.
There you go.
And I really learned a deep lesson on that, because I absolutely loved him. In fact, I wanted to hug him after. He was so adorable. He was wonderful. He was the opposite of what I thought. So, and then my last thing is, I always thought having a small booty was the way to go, but I was dead wrong.
Okay.
Because I am doing these classes right now that are really fun with like the booty shaking sort of thing. Like it's not necessarily twerking, but
Yeah, you're letting it all out.
yeah. And I can't do it. Like I literally cannot move my butt cheeks. And these girls in there, I'm really impressed. I'm like, wow, the way they can actually move.
I thought the story was gonna be like, now I've got a big ass. But instead, it's more like, I want to keep up in exercise class.
Exactly. I mean, I'm doing more squats, and I'm working on it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you just, you think you know things, and you think you know the truth about things, but you could end up being just wrong. So, and to round out my week, I signed up for a yoga teacher training. I'm very excited. I'm officially
That's super cool.
going to be a yoga teacher.
Oh my gosh, Heather.
I know. I'm stoked.
That's so cool.
And the cool thing is, this is one really good thing about this pandemic is I signed up for a yoga teacher training in LA like a year back, and I think it was close to $4,000, because it was like a 200-hour 8-week intensive program in person. And I remember thinking like, and I signed up for it, I got in, you have to like get in. And then I got like a gig, and I got too busy. But then I also didn't want to like drop like $4,000. Now
Sure,
that
yeah.
everything's gone online, you can actually get a very affordable online teacher training for under $500, and you get a certification. It's like totally legit. And the only thing is, I'm not going to get that experience of having someone adjust me and all
Right.
that. But I'm pretty.
You also
pumped.
have you've got a lot of yoga under your belt.
Oh yeah, 20 years.
You know, if it were me, because I mean, I love yoga, but I mean, I haven't been to yoga class in years.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I probably shouldn't be teaching anybody. I think your confidence
Exactly.
is right on.
Yeah, the only thing is, it would be nice to have like a mirrored room to practice, because you want to see yourself. You have to make sure your alignment's good and that kind of thing, which is, there is an open office next door, so I'm looking into that. But yeah, so those are the lessons that I learned this week.
Oh, well, they're good lessons. Don't assume that you get red toes when you get a pedicure
Nope.
up in Humboldt County. It's funny, just before we move on, I had a couple weird experiences, and I do not want to throw men under the bus as far as being in the medical profession at all, but it's just, women sometimes, we got our stories. And yeah, and just, sometimes lines get a little blurred. It's just, we are wary for a reason. And there was one massage. I used to get get massages at this place. It was back in San Francisco so long ago. I mean, I don't even know why I went to this particular place. It was like in Laurel Heights. And they, did like waxing and massage and just kind of like aromatherapy stuff. And it was like in this cute old Victorian, and I loved it. And there was one day, I mean, I can't even tell you the last time I got a massage because I can't remember when it was, but for a while I was doing it regularly thinking, this is keeping me healthy. Certainly felt good. And the woman who I was going to like canceled last minute, and they called me and they were like, hey, so here's the situation. We don't want you to cancel your appointment, but we have one of our male masseuses who can step in. Would that be okay with you? And I was kind of like, I think it's okay. Yeah, sure. I was like really looking forward to this. I'd like to not cancel. Okay. I'd never had a male masseuse before. And he was great. He wasn't creepy. Nothing about it was weird. But the entire time, because you're laying there for 90 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And it's very, they're getting all up in, your muscles and stuff. The whole time I was just like, this is a guy.
Yeah.
Like I'm just thinking about it, where if it was a woman, I just would like fall asleep or,
You might
drift
be more
off.
relaxed. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had mentioned it to someone afterwards, and they were like, if he made you feel uncomfortable, you should really say something to the place. And I'm like, he didn't. He was great. It was me, just
Yeah.
because it was like just a thing, so like maybe your Zoom call is like, you're like, it's just, I don't know you.
Yeah.
And like the male thing with females, sometimes we can get a little, being protective of ourselves.
Oh, 100%. Like I'm going to some acupuncturist next week that I just met in the hallway who's, kind of handsome. And I'm like, I'm going to be like half naked with needles in me, like vulnerable. I'm like, do I want to even do this and pay for this? Like,
Right. Like looking at your pretty face. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. Well, so Heather, you and I, and a lot of folks in our Discord, shout out to the Discorders who, yeah, you can be one as well.
Oh, yeah.
At our Patreon at a certain level, patreon.com/have such a good day. We've been talking about the new iPhones. So I don't want to, I mean, I'm an iPhone person, but I don't want to belabor that point. Just the idea of getting a new phone is something that I have been, in the past, I've been lucky enough to work at a variety of companies where it's like, oh, I work in technology. I have to talk about technological things, software, hardware, whatever. They'll pay for it, and that's part of my job. And so it was like for years, it was like, oh, a new iPhone? Well, I always get it because I have to talk about
Yeah.
it. And, I did iOS shows. And then but there's always a caveat to that as well, because it's not really your phone.
Yeah.
Somebody could take it away from you if they wanted to. And that always made me slightly uncomfortable, but all good. The last time I was at I worked for a corporation, like as a full-time employee. I remember that the day I left, and this has happened in the past where I've left companies and there was a company issued laptop or something, maybe multiple things that I had to give back, and I never like kept them. But this particular day was like a woman from HR stood over me and was like, you have 5 minutes to like give us the lap. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. No, I got to sign out of a lot of stuff. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
sure, I know. But it's like your IT manager isn't going to like all of a sudden like have access to like all my stuff, because this was, only in my hands for the last 6 months. And after that, I was like, all right, you know what? I'm buying all my own things. I will write off what I can. And I love when people say like, oh, you can write it off. It's like, you can't write it off 100%. You still have to
No.
like pay for things.
Of
And it's
course.
still like kind of a hassle to do all of that. But yes,
Such a hassle.
you can get money back for something that you can say is a business expense for you or your LLC or whatever. But I was like, I just do not want to be beholden to companies, owning stuff anymore, because it was such an unpleasant experience that one day where I'm like, it should have just been mine, and I can
Yeah.
walk out triumphantly and not, kind of have this like situation. So new iPhones, they're coming out. Heather and I were kicking around which ones we would like. My particular phone is a couple years old, so I skipped last year. They have new models that come out every October. pretty much. And I have dropped my phone a couple times. So it's a little beat up, but I also am just not that weird about that sort of thing. Like,
And you don't have a case on it. You usually don't
no,
have cases.
no, God, I can't
You
handle
like
cases.
to feel the sexy curves of the
I can't do it. No.
hardware.
Right, exactly. As nature intended. So, but I also am clumsy. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times I dropped a phone in a toilet over the years. It's
Yeah.
just like, because I'm like, oh, it's in my back pocket. Shoot.
It's an easy mistake.
It's an easy mistake. But I am very excited for my new phone. And again, sure, I'm going iPhone, but this could be any cool phone.
Sure.
I'm like, I've saved up a little bit. I skipped certain models because I didn't think it was totally necessary. But my phone at this point, Heather, it is so on its last legs. I wasn't even sure I would last this long a few months ago. I was like,
You still have another month to wait.
I might, yeah. Like I was like, I might just like not have a phone for a couple months, and that probably would work for the most part. Like I could mostly get through my life
You probably could.
just doing things through, using other means. But I am excited about it.
Are you going to try a new color? Like the green or something?
No, God, no. No, it's gold for me. Gold,
Yeah,
gold,
definitely
gold, gold,
gold.
gold. All golds. Yeah. And if everyone else wants gold, wait until I order mine first because I don't want them to run out.
Yeah, I got like nervous because it reminds me of like when like concert tickets go on sale at like 10 a.m. on Friday.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Or sneakers, that kind of thing.
I get so much anxiety for that.
Your girl's been burned. There's no reason not to be optimistic. I have set a reminder for myself as well, but I will also be up at 5 a.m. and that's the way that we're going to do this. We talk about first world problems so much on
Oh,
the
no
show.
kidding.
And, that's just, hey, listen, I mean, we own it. And I am no different. And it's funny because, like, I have no money anymore. I've never been rich, but I have very little money compared to what I was kind of comfortable with a few years
Yeah.
ago. But listen, you got to have a new phone. You just
Yeah.
got to do it. So it's my splurge for the year.
Just go on the payment plan, do pay per month, and I guess you probably can't get a lot of money for your phone at this point.
Oh, in fact, I already went through it with the Apple Store, like because online,
It's like
they're like, oh,
$2.
trade in. No, with mine, because I wanted to be like really honest. Like, it's like, oh no, it's like cracked in like several places. And there's like part of the corner is like hanging off and the battery doesn't work really. And they were like, yeah, no, this is a recycle situation.
That's awesome. I love it. That's great. So it's October, yo, and
Yep.
I'm just Sarah. I'm just embracing all things spooky. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm not sorry.
spooky season. Yeah.
I love it. I'm really into
People
it.
love it.
It's one of my favorite things, and I'm really enjoying my little thread I have going with one of our patrons, Jake. We talked about him last week in the show. He started a 31 days of October kind of horror movie bender. Like, so basically you watch a horror movie every single night, 31 horror movies. Some other people have popped in on this thread. This guy, Jude, popped in, but it's mostly a back and forth between Jake and me, which is funny. We're total movie dorks. We're just like, I don't know if you've read any of that stuff, but we are dorking out. So if anyone wants to join, it's on Patreon. Things that you're missing out on, we are talking extensively about dubbing of foreign movies, Hellraiser in Space, and Maniac Cop 2, which was one of his watches. And I've never heard of that movie. And I love like a cheeky, ridiculous, over the top, like almost dumb horror movie because it can just be so amusing. And I was just curious. So I like looked it up and I just think it's a funny title, Maniac Cop 2. And it made me really think about how many
So good they needed a sequel.
Exactly. I just love ridiculous horror movie titles.
Is the cop like a zombie?
I think he's some kind of monster zombie sort of thing. But I might watch it. I might start with
But also
Maniac
in law
Cop 1.
enforcement.
Yeah. I watched a campy movie the other night that my boyfriend put it on and just surprised me. I would have never chosen to watch this ever. It's called The Brain. And it was like a very hokey, special effects, big monster face, that had teeth, and it was so cheesy. But like, I actually kind of let myself like go along for the ride because I was the whole first 30 minutes. I'm like, babe, are you serious? This is ridiculous. Like, I don't know if I want to watch this. I don't know. And then I'm just like, but then after I'm like, I kind of liked it. And like, it's like such a type of movie I would never see. So I wanted to just share with you some of the ridiculous horror movie titles that I think are just hilarious. First one is Big Ass Spider exclamation point. You can imagine what that's about.
Oh gosh. I mean, if that's a deterrent, I mean, it's a good one.
Oh yeah. I mean, I probably won't ever watch it. Some of these I've seen and some of these I have not, admittedly. Matango, Attack of the Mushroom People. So this one is funny. This is a Japanese movie. I haven't seen this, but I've heard it's really good. So I think I'm going to throw this in my October list. But
I wonder if it's like their haircuts are mushroomy, or if they're actually like made of
like mushroom
fungi.
people, or maybe they're actual mushrooms with faces on them.
Yeah,
I'll report back.
please do.
The next one is, I love, these two don't go together, but they should. The Oily Maniac and the Greasy Strangler.
What is up with all this maniac stuff? Like,
I don't know.
Maniac. Yeah, like just so much like slippery, like I'm gonna strangle you and I'm also covered in grease.
I have to see these now. I'm like, oh, this is funny. The picture of this movie was really fun. The Long Hair of Death. And it's this like woman, it's like a corpse with like long hair. I've never seen it, but I'm intrigued. Brace yourself. Deathbed, the bed that eats.
Ooh. Yeah, don't lie here unless you
I
want
have
to be
to see this.
consumed.
I mean, it's probably awful. It's probably like a C,
Probably.
like a B movie, C, D. Like, I don't know how far it goes down, but probably awful. The Cars That Ate Paris, which I think is such a great title. And I really want to see this one, actually. This is a Peter Weir movie. He did Picnic at Hanging Rock, which is an amazing horror movie. I haven't seen this. This is going to be on my list for this month. I just watched a recent Giallo movie called Death Walks in High Heels, which I think is a fun title.
Very much.
And then there's a movie called
like just a bunch of S's.
Yeah. And has something to do with a snake. I just thought it was kind of funny.
I'd probably pick the spider movie.
I
over
know,
that
me
one.
too. And then the last few, I love the Giallo titles are the best. They're super long and just ridiculous, and just, I find them so amusing. But A Lizard in a Woman's Skin, Forbidden Photos of a Lady Above Suspicion. I think they're so much fun. And then Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is like the obvious one. I have never seen that though, but I hear it's pretty campy and fun.
I've never seen it either. I mean, as you know, I don't watch a lot of these movies. If a movie is more campy than kind of like, ooh, nightmarish, I have no problem with it. And I have no problem with a silly movie, even if it's sort of like,
Sure.
There's a man under the stairs, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what? I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about you last night because I was catching up on We Are Who We Are, that series that we talked about a couple of episodes ago, which I like very much.
I thought you would.
Yeah, I really do. We're 4 episodes in, and it's an unusual show.
It's
to
very
say
unusual.
The least. Yeah, but there's a very short scene where 2 of the kids who are the main characters in the movie are watching a horror movie. I don't know which one it is, but it's like a horror movie where like someone's mouth is like there's skin over the mouth and she's trying to scream, but like she has no mouth anymore. It's just like, and I'm like, oh my God. Like just that like tiny moment, I'm like, I will now have nightmares about this.
The mouthless woman or something?
Because it's just like, brr, yeah, like it's just so like, it wasn't even stitched. It was just, there was no mouth
that might
anymore.
have been there. There's in the Twilight Zone, the movie, there's an episode in there where there's a woman that has no mouth, and it's really creepy. I don't like that stuff either.
She seemed very upset about it. Where I'm like, what if you have to burp? Like, I can't think of like anything worse. Eating is my favorite thing ever. So, but I thought of Heather. I was like, I wonder if Heather would be as bothered by this as I was. And it was like truly like 2 seconds of a show about something else.
And
completely.
I would say kind of, yes. I mean, I have to say there are things that I'm bothered by. Like I'll watch these movies and like there are things where I'm literally like, that's why I like the Giallos so much, because when they cut open something, it's so obviously fake, and the blood is so bright red, not blood. It's like paint, you know, and so it doesn't even have the texture of blood. So there is this sort of like distance from the violence because it's not so realistic. Oh man, I mean, I have definitely been scarred for life. I've watched too many movies that have really scarred me. I mean, I to this day, I can't watch the original Pet Sematary because of Zelda. And that's the only thing I think of when I think of the name Zelda is the deformed sister in that movie freaked me out.
Rachel.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. No, sorry.
Sorry. Good,
like, thank you. No, it's funny. I've seen that movie a couple of times. Weirdly, I'm like, wasn't that big a deal?
Yeah.
And then other people are like, no, it's really
Zelda.
a big deal. And we have a mutual friend who has a kid named Zelda. And my first reaction was like, from Pet Sematary?
Yeah.
Clearly not. Clearly not.
There's
But
also a wonderful video game with a Zelda character. So.
Exactly. And I think that's more what they were going for.
Yeah.
I was like, it was my first reaction as well. And the show I was just talking about, one of the main characters is named Sarah because of course.
Of course.
And it just, every time I'm just like, can no one be slightly more creative? Why? Why do we have to do this?
Well, Zelda is
like,
a good example of being slightly more creative.
Yeah, you're right. That's a very good point. I don't know why. And maybe there was another name in the past that always was that name. You know, in a sitcom, someone always had that name. And I just never noticed because it wasn't mine. But it's insane. I don't know. Like movie after movie, I'm like, why are you
very
naming
common
one of your
name.
characters Sarah?
And
it's so weird.
Yeah, no, it is funny. You're like haunted by Sarahs. Like it's crazy. The world's trying to tell you something. I don't know what it is, but
I know. It's, it's my name. I'm not going to change it. I just would. And sometimes people go, oh, I love that name. And I'm like, you do? I mean, like as if you like discovered it, like on your own on vacation once. Like,
I mean, it is a pretty name. It's just common.
It's just, yeah.
There's mine's really dated.
There's too many of us.
I think it's weird now. Like my name, it's like, I think my name's pretty, but I definitely feel like it kind of bugs me that it's dated.
Well, so your name is, there was clearly like a spike, 70s and 80s.
Yeah, 70s and 80s.
Yeah. And so, like, I knew Heathers growing up. Not like a million of them, but
there
I
were
knew
a fair
them.
amount.
Yeah, like that. It wasn't like, oh, that's an unusual name. I was like, somebody's named Heather or Amy or Julie or Sarah or whatever. But the Sarah thing, because the biblical part of it, I think is like, that's why it just won't stop.
Totally.
Because people are like, just, it's in the Bible. It's a real name. So screw them all. Sorry, Jesus. You know who else is remarkable?
Our patrons.
Our patrons. Yay. Want to give some shout outs to some of our new patrons and people who have upgraded, and one of those people you know quite well, Heather.
I do. We have the same last name. My father. Yeah, my dad is a really big fan of Sarah and I. He to this day, I mean, he doesn't really belabor it much anymore, but he used to make popcorn and watch Pop Siren, one of our shows Sarah and I created back in the day at Revision 3, and he used to just get so excited when Sarah and I had projects, and you guys have the greatest chemistry, and So anyway, he listens to the show fairly religiously. It's very cute. Really, he's like our number one fan, or within the top 10.
Sure.
So,
yeah, along with my mother.
Thanks, Nick Frank.
Hi, Mom.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Nick Frank.
We also have Scott Wilhelm and Brandon Spickard.
Who are new patrons. So hi. Hey, guys. Guys or gals, whatever. I mean, we don't know. Your gender doesn't matter. But if you'd like to join our Discord, we'd love to have you. Having some spirited conversations in there just today, in fact.
Jude S. writes in, he says, I have to agree with you, Heather, that no one is on it. And this is referring to a few episodes back where I said that I feel like right now this year, people's heads are in the clouds because so much is going on in the world. And I think people are feeling really scattered, including myself. So this is what he's referring to. He says, could be that there is so much pressure on people these days and you have to do your job and their job. For instance, we've been ordering tacos from the same location for months. More often than not, our order wasn't complete. Whether they forgot the chips, salsa, and the last time both the rice and the beans, I just let it slide until they forgot the guacamole. because guacamole. They still have the best carnitas ever, so it's worth it. I just wish people would start doing their jobs so I don't have to. And it's funny. We had a conversation about this, but yeah, you can't be hard on people right now, even though it is frustrating. I mean, like the vet lost my cat's blood and I had to bring him back for like a blood test, and it was just like a huge inconvenience,
Right.
There's a lot of that stuff
Yeah.
going on right now. And I think, we have to be flexible with people, at least, for the rest of the year.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hate to break it to you, but I don't think 2021, January 1st, is going to magically solve a whole lot for us. We're going to,
I think people think that's going to happen. Like, oh, new year,
yeah,
like
right. Like
fresh
2020
start,
was the
but
shits, but, we're moving on.
I agree.
I know what you mean, though, Jude. I really try very much, especially in the food industry, to not be that guy. When someone gets
Yeah.
my order wrong or it's missing or it's not quite right, because I just know how hard that job is. And
Yeah.
you just get so much negative energy from people who are, expecting perfection.
Yeah, you're like serving
Yeah.
people. So people have these
Yeah.
high expectations.
But I also,
and-
Heather had told me the story about her cat, they took blood at the vet and then they like misplaced it, and so she had to go all the way back, and it's like I would be irate
Yeah, I
if
wasn't
that had
happy
to
about it.
happen, just because it's like it's stress on my animal.
Oh, totally.
It's not
That
even
was
that I'm
why.
like that mad that this happened, but it's just like but
Yeah, you have to
but
poke
yeah,
my
I
cat
mean,
again. Like you have to put a needle in my cat's paw again. Like he didn't like it the first time. Yeah. So I mean, don't get me started. But I did want to
Yeah.
mention, I was perusing our some old iTunes reviews. Those are so fun to read. But it's funny, it says like when it's logged. It's like 1 year ago, 2 years ago. God, I mean, 2 years ago. It's crazy. But we need some new iTunes reviews, y'all. Are you guys up for the challenge?
Yeah, you know what? iTunes reviews, listen, we don't want to like beg too much, but that is, no matter if you use iTunes to listen to our podcast or not, that is a great place for us to get a
Exactly.
little bit more exposure, which we, we would love. We've got a free ad-supported feed. If you're a patron, of course, no ads in your patron feed. We're uploading new shows on Mondays and Tuesdays to the rest of the world. I mean, kind of depends on your time zone, but that's what we're doing. And we love all y'all. And if you love the show, it would be so great for you to weigh in a little bit on why you love it.
Yeah, and the thing is we're we're definitely a small crew, and we do everything. Both Sarah
Yeah.
and I, we don't have employees, so it's like
We're a crew of two.
we have to promote, we have to do social media, we do PR, and we're not great at all of it. We totally admit. So it's always helpful to have the word spread by our wonderful community. And I wanted to share one last thing of just like a little warm fuzzy, because I know it's harder to come by these days. But yesterday I come home and there's a little piece of paper stuck in my door. And it's a sweet little note from one of our guests that stayed in the cottage next door. And it's a poem. And I wanted to share it with y'all.
Oh my God.
It's so
Okay.
cute. It's this old couple that stayed in the cabin for a couple days. It's just adorable. And it's written on a piece of paper. It's like one of those found. Do you ever read those? I love that Instagram account. It's like found messages, and they're like little pieces of paper like that are found around like
Yeah,
shopping lists
yeah.
and.
Yeah, I know the concept.
Those are very amusing. All right, so here it goes. We came to the cottage on a bluff to be rid of Smoky Valley stuff. We found beauty and serenity. We lacked no amenity. What we found was way more than enough.
That's so cute.
Isn't that the cutest thing? It really made my day. And we were
Like,
speaking
it makes me
about.
kind of want to cry.
I know, me
almost.
too. And it was like, I have to send a picture to you. The handwriting was so sweet. And it really made my day. And it made me think of like that whole like snail mail thing we were talking about last week. But like, it was like a letter in my door, and it warmed my heart. And so
That's adorable. I mean, if any of my guests would send me a poem, boy, I mean, that'll be the day.
well, maybe you need to work on that.
I know.
Inspire
I just should
them
try
somehow.
harder, right? Yeah, yeah. Hey, we'd appreciate a poem before you check out on Thursday.
I would like a haiku next time, please.
Yeah. can we do like a limerick?
Yeah.
I really like limericks.
I like limericks.
No, I mean, if I'm lucky, they don't complain for a week straight. So, you know, all good. But
You got to count your blessings.
that's really cute though. That's
Yeah.
like, that is such a warm fuzzy.
I know,
Like,
and they took the time to do it.
You explained it correctly. Like,
Yeah.
that's just, and it's not like, probably didn't take that long. They were like, oh, that's cute, you know.
Pretty simple.
But like meaningful to you because you're somebody who's in the business of making their stay happy.
You know, I'm finally realizing, because my dad kept saying, like, you're going to really enjoy this. You're going to meet some great people. There's going to be some great exchanges. And I was like, oh, okay, really. And I am. And you know, these people broke my heart a little bit. I think they had like a 2-night stay, and then they called to see, they loved it so much they wanted to add a day. But we've been so booked, and I felt so bad we had to like turn them down. But these are the ones that wrote the poem. So hopefully they'll come back. But it's neat to see what people write about the places. We get a lot of really good reviews. So I'm really grateful.
Well, that's adorable. And, you know, here's to many more great reviews and happy folks and as little strife as possible.
Yeah, we do what we can to make the world go round. And, you know, that's, I guess, the whole point of our show, or at least we try. But I got my name up on the marquee in this office building, so it's really cool. I'll actually post it to Lens. I have a little Have Such a Good Day video and podcast productions, little thing up on the sign. And I'm actually going to get a real sign on the door and make it, you know, like an official production place. So
All
that's exciting.
Yeah, we got our Humboldt headquarters.
Yeah, that's right.
We do. No, it's great. You know, with our little satellite redwood studio office.
It's true. It is.
As well. And, you know, all of our animals that proudly support us, as do all of you. And thanks again for everybody who does. Well, Heather, I think it's fork time.
I think that we've talked enough.
I think we have. But, you know, we enjoyed it.
More next week for sure.
Absolutely. So, wherever you may be, and whenever you may be listening to this, we hope you have such a good day. I'm Sarah.
I'm Heather.
Bye-bye.
Bye.